meeting of the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board. On behalf of all the members of the Governing Board, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. I want to let you know that members of the public are attending both in person and remotely through YouTube Live. In a few minutes, I'll read the rules of order for public comment at Governing Board meetings. If you wish to make a comment remotely, you should have signed up using the Google form that is available under the YouTube Live description. If you don't see the link to the Google form to speak, you can refresh your YouTube live stream. If you're attending in person and you wish to make a public comment this evening, you need to fill out one of these purple forms that's at the table in the back where you all signed in. We have a full house this evening. It is so nice to see everyone here. And guessing by the demographics, I'm gonna take a stab at it and say that most of you, if not all of you, are here for our Deep Learning Showcase. And we're going to get to that. It's not our very first item on the agenda, but it is close to the top, so we'll get to it shortly. And just so everyone knows, after the showcase, you may get some questions from board members. We may want to hear some more directly from you about your experiences. And then we'll take a minute or two to give you all an opportunity to leave the meeting if you have other places to be, or of course you're welcome to stay for our meeting. We love having everybody here, and we always start with a Pledge of Allegiance, and so particularly because we have so many students here, if you will, everybody please rise, and if the students could help but lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, I would really appreciate that. Okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. The Governing Board welcomes public comments at its meeting by providing 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comments time slot near the beginning of the meeting. Or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. In the event there is a public hearing, the opportunity to speak will be reopened. If you are joining remotely and wish to make a public comment, you should have already submitted the Google form provided with the YouTube link. For those attending in person, as I said before, hand your purple form, this request to address the Governing Board, to our board secretary. The information requested on these forms is required for our meeting minutes. Speakers will be called on when it is your turn to address the board. For those attending remotely, you may choose to enable your camera, but as a reminder, remote attendees who wish to speak will need to unmute your microphone when called upon. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the board. The sound of a buzzer indicates the end of your 3 minutes. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may need to limit that time so that they can conduct the business on this agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community that they are aware of the topics that will be discussed this evening. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communication, board members' contact information can be found on the district's website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is our outstanding achievements, and for that, I turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Bartlett.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to highlight numerous achievements of our students in many different areas of the curriculum. There are many names that I'm not going to say every name, but they will be in tomorrow's border for anyone who wants to read that. So our first celebration is our first LEGO League State Championship. Our school district is celebrating the outstanding achievements of our first LEGO League at the State Championship held on January 18th at Arizona State University West Campus. There were 71 teams competing across Arizona, and our CFSD teams excelled, earning multiple awards, placing 3 teams in the top 10. for robot scores and advancing 3 teams to postseason competition. We also had 5 teams earning top awards and 3 placing in the top 10 for robot scores. As many as 3 CFSD teams may advance to the postseason competition. So our award highlights for our team 5155, who are called the Reef Rangers, they got 3rd place for their Core Values Award. Our team 5158, Partners for Life, they got 2nd place for the Innovation Project. 5151, Marine Micromasters, they got 3rd place for Robot Design. Our Illuminators got 2nd place for Core Values Award. And our Barbaric Blooms got 1st place for the Innovation Project. Our heartfelt gratitude goes out to their coaches, Charlotte Ackerman, Noah Mickey Coleman, Maura Baker, Tiffany Wiley, and Nancy Shao, and all of the parent volunteers and student mentors that guided our teams to success. It was a team effort for sure. Next, we have Pioneer Robotics, which is congratulations to our unforgettable performance at the FTC Palo Verde Goodyear Qualifier on January 25th. We had a championship win. Our Pioneer went undefeated, winning 8 straight matches, including 2 semifinals and 2 final matches against different alliances. And their dominance on the field scored them the winning alliance first pick and an incredible 286 points in the final match, the 4th highest score in the state. So yes, we also won the Inspire Award. The Pioneer team took home that award with the highest honor in the First Tech Challenge. This award celebrates teams that exemplify innovation, teamwork, and leadership, serving as ambassadors to the program while competing with gracious professionalism. The Pioneer is coached by Charlotte Ackerman and Sam Kunzman. Team mentors are Lucas Gruber, Joel Borowskis, and Michael Gross. We also have our Student Council Award. The Arizona Association of Student Council Conference on January 25th, we had a junior, Fiona Westmoreland, was elected by hundreds of her peers as the next year's AASC president.
Great.
Yes. Catalina Foothills High School Student Council earned the prestigious Outstanding Council Award and several others. Gary Thompson was named, who is the sponsor for Student Council, he was named the AASC Student Council Advisor of the Year. He was nominated by his Student Council students and selected by the AASC Executive Board out of several outstanding advisors across the state. So we are very proud of that for both of those accomplishments. And finally, we have our CFHS Advanced Theater. The Catalina Foothills High School Advanced Theater program performed well at the Southern Arizona Festival of Theater Regionals on January 25th, earning accolades in team and individual events. The program fielded 2 teams in the Tech Challenge, showcasing their backstage skills in critical theater tasks. They earned 2nd place in sewing machine threading, 2nd place in knot tying, and 4 students also participated in individual events, earning impressive ratings. The instructor is Amy Byrode, who is the theater arts director, and we congratulate Ms. Byrode and the advanced theater students for their continued success. So lots of different areas of success in our district.
Beautiful. And again, these accomplishments and the full names of students who participate in these events will be listed in the Border, which is the publication that comes out and is usually sent out through the school newsletter. It's on the websites, but also sent out in the school newsletters on Parent Square. So look for that tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Bartlett.
You're welcome.
Okay, that brings us to item 1.5 on our agenda, which is our CFSD Deep Learning Showcase. Excuse me. This is a showcase of quality teaching and learning. It's the opportunity for our community to get to see some of the fantastic things that are happening in our schools. And this evening, we're going to be hearing about Esparro Canyon Middle School National Junior Society students building a sustainable future. So, with that,
that. So building one rock dams is one way to care for the land.
Water usually just lands on the roads. So if it's on the roads, it will turn into flash floods, which we struggle with each year. So by helping using these trenches, we can help them out into Rio Nito or any other places where water is moving. Well, I would admit, if it was 106, I would not be happy. Nice out, it's 66, and it feels good to just be outside after a long day of school. We're learning how to work as a team. We're learning how to figure out how to problem solve, how to work with our hands, how to work physically instead of just working with our brains. You're gonna do a lot of projects. I've never done this before, so it's exciting about it. This is part of the NGHS service events. So we've been, so far this year, we've collected 1,000 items from the neighborhood. We've had earlier this year, I thought we collected 80 items, clothes from 15 different kids, and also just regular items for kids such as this.
Where to go to, where you can provide services, you can help out, do different stuff.
Very glitchy stick.
We have our two teacher sponsors here tonight. If you'd like to come up, Ms. Burgum and
Please.
Becky. If you want to stand at the podium, they might have a few questions to ask
Thank you for being here. Can you introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Casey Virgil. I'm the science teacher.
And I'm Maggie Gibbons. I teach social studies and I work with the NJHS.
Thank you. And your principal, Mary Setliff, is here as well. I saw her in the back. Thank you for being here.
That's here as well. You have questions for our sponsors?
So how did the kids choose this as a project?
So they didn't necessarily choose this project. I've done work in the past with Watershed Management Group to create rainwater harvesting gardens. And through Becky Fitzpatrick, who I believe is here today from WMG, she was able to get a grant through the United States Forest Service to do work there. And because of the work we've done with them in the past, they reached out to us to see if our students would be interested in doing this. So I threw it at them.
Wonderful. I can't imagine that you had a lot of pushback about spending the day in Spokane.
No, not too much pushback. It was an optional for them. Most of them are NJHS. We did have one kid who was not, Isabella, who was really interested and wanted to join us out there.
I'd love to hear from some of the students. I'm assuming that everyone here who is a student is here, was part of this project. Maybe that's an incorrect assumption, but certainly many of you were part of this project. I would invite all of you or any of you to share with us what you liked about this, whether you'd do it again, whether you'd recommend it as something that NJHS does next year. Any thoughts that you'd like to share? And maybe we could just start at one end and work our way down. You can maybe just stay where you are and introduce yourself. Maybe share your first name and your grade and just a short thought on it. Would that be okay? And if you don't want to, just say pass. I mean, you don't have to. Thanks, Luke. Yeah.
Also, like you're doing good for the environment.
Say it in.
And I really liked the project. It was fun to compete. I also got to deal with giants. It's really nice stuff.
Lychee stick.
Mm-hmm.
Science went also in 8th grade, and I just thought, since a lot of people do this, being engineers doing our parts, like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
struggled with it. But I really want to do it again and get another try at Iljuism.
My name is Danny, grade 8 also. And yeah, I think this is the kind of thing that you go back at least once a year because these dams require kind of constant management and really just to keep the canyon how it is for everyone. It's really important.
My name is Nora. I'm also in group, and it was really fun. Like everyone said, it's like it was really fun to work with the team, and I really liked it. So I went back the next Saturday and did it again. It was really fun.
My name is Ijima. I'm in Lincoln as well, and I think it was also like really fun because we got to do like hands-on like sort of like related science, and we also like learned a lot from it, like a lot of teamwork things because it was like a big puzzle. So we had to put blocks like where they belong in nature and fit and like definitely. My name is Rosanna. I'm studying English, and I was really doing some super fun things with team that we talk about and how to relate that I'm Isabella. I'm in 8th grade too. I actually went with Nora again because I found it like a really good experience and it was really fun to just like works. My name is Melanie and I'm also in 8th grade. And I found the experience really fun. It was nice to work with new people and figure out some new team building stuff. So it's really fun.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing
Yes,
your
thank you.
perspectives. Really appreciate it. I love these themes emerging of teamwork and hands-on experience, right? And really bringing what you're learning to life through real life experience. So it sounds like you're all 8th graders, so you'll be off to high school next year, and definitely encourage you to consider the environmental science track that we have there. I think it sounds like we might have some future environmental scientists on our hands. So thank you for your hard work and for sharing your hard work with us.
Anything that teachers would like to add? No. It's okay.
I just love being able to see them in a different light. And we have so much experience with each other in the classroom, but then I get to see them out there learning how to like hack at the ground and be persistent and not give up. And it's such a joy to be able to see them in IRL.
Aw.
We're also hoping, I believe you have a few other openings coming up, and so possibly doing this with some of our other grades as well, and getting them out there to do it as well.
Was it after school one day?
Yes, it was after school on a Friday.
Before the break.
Okay.
Up a Friday.
Just a few hours. 66 degrees, sounds pretty nice. Like you
I have a
said.
question for any of the students who want to answer. Did you learn anything from this project that you then brought back to your own homes?
For example, with your yards, are you looking at your yard or street water runoff more critically now and thinking, oh, we could harvest some water in our yard better if we just built little earthen dams or things like that?
My dad actually helped me make this river rock project in my neighborhood to help stop the flow of water in this one part where we have yeah.
Wonderful. Love that.
My brother would go to like the wash fountain in the neighborhood. He used to like build the little dams that we sort of did at Sabino, so I brought back to there. And from Sabino, I brought back the sort of like the same thing we did before, but then also we noticed like the rocky little cliffs and stuff back there. We noticed that they're more strong and less like
I want to express my gratitude to the whoever decided to define a one rock dam because I was going to make a really stupid comment otherwise. So, one rock, make a difference. That was really great, y'all.
I love this project because water in the desert is such a scarce resource, and the ways that we can work on collecting it to help our native trees grow better and just prevent erosion and runoff, and starting that at a young age so that we can look at our built environment a little better and sustain it better I think is wonderful. I really appreciate you all doing this kind of service project because it benefits the entire community too.
and all of us who get to learn about it through your experience. It's a ripple effect. Thank you all so much for being here. It's tough to come out, I know, at the end of a long day. And you're probably wanting to get home and have dinner or homework or whatever. But we appreciate you being here because this is some of our most favorite things to do as board members is to really be able to see what you're doing in the classroom and to hear from you. And you're also articulate and enthusiastic, and we just feel so proud of each and every one of you. And thank you also to, obviously, you do a lot with your parents' support and parents' help and the adults in your life who help you every day to be able to do things like this, and teachers as well. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your project with us. We appreciate it.
Julie, want to get a group photo?
Did you want a photo, Julie?
Get a group photo? Let's get a group photo.
Yeah, let's have a photo of the students and teachers. Then you'll really want to look in the border tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Parents, feel free to get up and snap a photo too.
Yep. They were moving some pretty big.
What's that?
They were moving some pretty big.
They were, yeah.
That was a good question.
Okay, good. Kids with Gomichi sticks.
I know.
Really big sticks.
No.
I'm just comfortable.
Look at this no-win situation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Work.
Next event, go. Your concept. Yeah, it's funny. You weren't kidding, Tom.
Is it inappropriate to yell out, "Thank you, Fitzpatrick, thank you"? It's like, I assume they provide all the tools and everything.
And now we're gonna have
Yeah. Then there was one.
We will just give them a moment.
All kinds of rainwater.
Right.
Oh my gosh, one rain.
You're good for
Everything is
months.
full. I'm good for months, yeah.
I do that too. I harvest a lot of that stuff.
I'm on the other side of that. I'm like, it's not worth it to do the harvest. It's a daily, it's every time it rains, it's an argument.
Yes.
That's not very often then.
Yeah.
I know, that's not so bad, really.
Not very often.
Well, thank you, everyone. That was wonderful. Nice to see.
Thank you, Julie, for the video.
Yes, Julie, thank you. Thank you. The video was terrific. It is item 2.0, public comments. However, I do not have any requests to speak, and our room has nearly cleared out.
Right.
And there are, I also don't have any requests to speak online, so I'll just pause for a second to make sure if anyone is online, signed up. It's 7, should have been done by now. I assume there's no public comments. Okay. So moving on to our consent agenda, we do have a couple of items to pull. One of the items that I'm going to pull is the 3.1, the approval of the January 28th, 2025 regular governing board meeting minutes memorandum. And there's another item?
Yes, the personnel memorandum, please.
Okay. So except for pulling item 3.1 and 3.4, are there any items that need to be pulled before we entertain a consent motion? Okay. I have a motion.
A motion? All right. I move that the governing board approve item 3.2, the expense voucher memorandum as presented, 3.3, this is a little bit hard to do when
I
you
know.
guys have pulled them.
I know.
3.3, the fundraising request memorandum as
want this?
presented. No, I got it.
Okay.
3.5, the acceptance with gratitude of the gifts and donations memorandum as presented. And 3.6, the adoption of fees for tax credit eligible activities as presented. This action also grants authority to waive the assessment of all or part of any fee if it creates an economic hardship for a family.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Tom can have it.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 3.2, 3.3, 3.5, and 3.6, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we will return to item 3.1.
Yes, so at our study session on January 28th, we inaccurately said that the election for our M&O override was going to be in 2027. It's actually going to take place during the 2026-2027 school year, but it will take place in November of 26. So we need to amend the minutes to reflect that the override election will take place in November of 2026.
Or that it will be proposed to take
Proposed.
place during the
Exactly.
fall of 2026.
Yes, it'll be,
It does have to go through.
we'll have to call a,
Which
Call for an
would
election.
mean there wouldn't be a gap. It potentially.
it would
the
phase out.
exact
Timing would be to avoid a gap.
correct.
Okay. Any questions about that?
No, but thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. So then, is there a motion to approve consent agenda item 3.1 as amended?
I move the governing board approve the governing board January 28, 2025 regular meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And item 3.4, the personnel memorandum.
Yeah, I asked for that to be pulled. I just wanted to acknowledge that we are entering a time of year in the normal cycle where we start to receive resignations from teachers potentially who've decided to pursue other activities or moving for family reasons or whatever the case may be. And so we are at this point starting to see those come in. And I'm very much looking forward to the teacher retention report that we have on today's agenda for, excuse me, in a little while that we'll get to, which is always insightful in terms of, our, how we are, the teachers input themselves, the voice of the teachers is what I'm trying to say, as to what's important to them in terms of continuing to be with us. So again, just wanted to make that acknowledgement that we're at that time of year where we start to see movements and decisions being made, life decisions being made that then affect contracting.
And, I mean, just to piggyback on that a little bit, that oftentimes with those resignations, there's an asterisk that indicates that the employee is electing to, or anticipates continuing employment in that year when the employment is with ESI.
Those would be the retirements. Some of the
Retirements,
are-
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
not necessarily
Not
just
resignations, I'm
but
sorry, retirements, I misspoke.
They're starred.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The retiree hire program.
Right.
I was very glad to see those stars.
Yes.
Yes. Any questions or further discussion about the personnel memorandum? Okay,
Okay.
make a motion.
I move the governing board approve the personnel memorandum as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item on our agenda is is discussion and reports under item 4.1, which is Dr. Bartlett presenting on the teacher retention survey from the spring of 2024.
Yes, thank you. So a little history of our retention survey. This is the fourth administration of the survey. We started this survey in 2015, and we do it every third year. So every 3 years. It's a little much to do it every year with survey fatigue, so we do this every third year. And there's really 4 goals that we seek in surveying our employees. We want to know what factors drew them to our district. So what factors made you initially apply to our district? What factors made you contributed to you accepting a position in our district? What factors or job satisfaction keeps you working in our district? And what are factors that might make you look elsewhere? So those are really our 4 goals for this. It's not a predictive survey, really. We can't really make predictions based on the information here. What we can do is learn their motivations for working or their motivations for maybe seeking employment elsewhere. But we know that Arizona has a teacher shortage. It is well documented. Governor Hobbs had a educator retention task force in 2023, and some alarming statistics came out of that. Arizona has notoriously had one of the highest attrition rates in the state, I mean in the country. So we've had about 24% in Arizona, which is, obviously alarming. And because we're not able to fill that, in 2021-22 school year, 58% of Arizona schools struggled to fill all of their positions. There were openings, there were vacancies, compared to only 47% nationwide. So Arizona had teacher vacancies at a higher rate than other states. And it continues to have the highest rates of educators planning to leave the profession at 13%, where the country average is 8%. So Arizona is in kind of a crisis. The teacher replacement, to replace a certified teacher is very costly. They estimated that it's about 150% of the outgoing salary of the person. So that's a very costly endeavor when your teachers are leaving at a rate that is very high. So in 2015, we decided to start studying this in the district to find out those reasons. So what can we do to prevent retention, or to prevent attrition, and keep our teachers in the classroom? We've trained them, we want to keep them. So this is our historical retention rates that we've had. We've been collecting this since 2013-14, and you can see that we hover right around the 85, 86. We've gone down to 79%. But in the 22-23 school year, our district average was 84% retention, which is a very good retention rate. I will say that, although it's not reflective here, we provided you information this year, early this year, about our retention rate for this year, and it was at its highest ever, and it was at 88%. So we're moving in the right direction. We really feel confident that our teachers are, staying in the positions if they're able to. If they're moving, things like that, they're not. We can't really control that. That's just life happens, right? So there are reasons for attrition, and some we can't mitigate. But we really feel confident that we are on the right direction in our retention. Our high school has really increased its retention. If you look historically, they were in the high 70s, and last year they were at 86%. So we are very fortunate that they have really increased that retention rate. And the middle school and the elementary schools have kind of gone up and down and up and down and up and down. But again, 83% for each of those in the 22-23 school year.
You think that that 2021, 2022 school years, which were slightly lower, is that a pandemic response?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. If you remember, during the pandemic, we had to do some mid-year replacements.
Yes.
So we had a higher turnover rate during the pandemic, for sure. I know this is kind of hard to see, but this is, we kind of track the historical attrition by content and grade level at each of the levels, so elementary, middle school, and high school. So this represents 188 teachers over the 6-year period at the elementary level that we've had to replace. We employ approximately 155 teachers throughout our elementaries. So it's, almost, well, it's all the elementary teachers.
Yeah, it is.
In a 6-year period. But the specific grade level attrition is really obviously at an elementary school. There's grade level that comprises most of the faculty at the school. So you're going to see the highest attrition rate at those levels. We have fewer, Spanish teachers or ELD teachers, so that is the elementary. And then we also track their reasons for attrition. Why are they leaving? So the top 5 historical reasons that they're leaving is relocation. And again, relocation, I will say, because we live in Tucson, and our 3 top employers, Raytheon, Davis-Monthan, and the University of Arizona,
Okay.
it causes some turnover, right?
Transient.
Yes, we have some
Population.
transiency. So our 3 major employers is part of that relocation aspect of it. The second reason is for family or personal reasons. So they're staying home to take care of their children. They have an ill parent that they're staying home to take care of. That was 30 teachers. Retirement, we had 22 teachers retire over this period of time at the elementary level. Non-renewal, and that would be, of course, our choice. So we would not bring a teacher back for non-renewal reason. And then 18 teachers over this period of time went to work in another district.
And that means another local district?
Well, this one is just, yes, I think this one is a local district because we did track a district in Tucson or a district outside of Tucson, but this was in Tucson.
And presumably the others would go into the relocation category, I would think. Okay.
Yes. So collectively, those 6 reasons make up 69% of the total attrition. So then we have the middle school. We have this historical by content. And again, so there were 98 teachers in this six-year span who left. We employ approximately 75 middle school teachers between the 2 campuses. So the content areas that saw the highest attrition, of course, they have the most staffing there, which would be English, PE, math, and science. Now, special ed, which is not a content, also had 12 teachers leave during this time period. We still struggle to hire and retain special education teachers. It's a difficult position, and it's just difficult.
What's SLP?
Speech language pathologist, yes. So here are the middle school's historical reasons for leaving. The top 5, retirement, again, relocation, work in another district in Tucson, dissatisfaction, and then being non-renewed. So those 5 reasons total 66% of our attrition over that 6-year period. And just as a point of reference for our special education, we employ 6 special ed teachers between the 2 middle schools, and we had 12 teachers 12 special ed teachers that left in this 6-year period. So it's about 1 a year, sometimes 2 a year, and again, at all levels, attracting and retaining special education teachers is difficult. It's a challenge.
Dr. Bartlett, can you explain the category of dissatisfaction?
Yes. So dissatisfaction is they left because they were dissatisfied with some aspect of their employment. We sometimes, before we were asking them for the specific reasons, and sometimes they'll give you that reason and sometimes they won't. And so they'll just write, I've been dissatisfied with teaching 6 periods a day, or I've been dissatisfied with the support I've gotten from my administrator. Those are types of reasons for dissatisfaction.
sorry, a follow-up question. So that means, so if that's where, that's the box they've checked or whatever, does that mean that they've not gone on to work in another district or not gone on to a career change or anything else? And, or is it that it's just that we don't know what they've done and
We
the
don't
reason
know
they
what
gave
they've
is
done.
dissatisfaction?
That's what I was gonna ask.
We
Do
don't
they
know.
check only one box?
Yes.
Okay.
So they could check more, but they
So you don't, so work in another district and dissatisfied could be the same person?
could be.
That's what I was.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, exactly.
I will say, in recent years, dissatisfaction has not been a reason. So this is, this is back to 2015, which is why I think we started this survey, is because we were having teachers indicating that they were dissatisfied, and we wanted to figure out why. So,
Denise, work in another district. If I remember correctly, we used to say left for a promotion or left for a higher level position, or a position wasn't available for them. Is that, I don't have my laptop, so it's hard for me to read this. Do we still track that?
yes, there's 3 that left for promotion to
Okay,
administrative.
there we go. So that work in another district, they're not necessarily going because there's a better job for them in another district. They're truly choosing to leave our district and go to this other.
Yeah, it would be a lateral move.
Okay, okay.
Teaching
that's
to
what I wanted
teaching.
clarify. So you could theoretically make an assumption that that chunk of folks were also dissatisfied, that they actually had another job lined up at the time they did the survey.
Could be. Not always, though.
They
I mean,
moved within Tucson as well. I mean, I hear that quite often.
sometimes it's they want to teach in the same district their kids attend.
Yeah.
So it's not dissatisfied. You can't,
It doesn't have, not person for person.
Right.
But yeah,
correct.
they don't necessarily tell us the reason they went to work in another district.
Right. Even though we send out a survey to tell us why, and we ask them, we send it out a couple of times, once they leave, they're less apt to respond.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
And our principals don't do in-person exit surveys.
Not
exit
typically. I mean, typically a teacher is going to come in and talk to their principals and say, and if we do know that, then we write that down. We track that.
And you would update this data?
Yes.
Yes. This data would include that as well.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So here's the high school historical attrition data by content. And there have been 114 teachers at the high school level, and we employ about 105 teachers at the high school. So.
Brand new school every 6 years, right? Brand new.
Yes. And again, the specific core content areas are going to have the highest attrition because they have the highest number of teachers. There's about 10 to 12 teachers in every core content at the high school, so that's going to have the highest. But the top 5 areas for attrition are English, math, social studies, special education, which really isn't a content, but that is an area, and then science. And those top 5 reasons make up 69% of the total attrition. And all of the other reasons make up that 31%.
I know that you make a really good point that this distribution roughly matches the actual distribution of teachers, so you're going to lose more math
Yes.
teachers if you have more math
Correct.
teachers. But are there any, to your knowledge, are there any disciplines where there's a disproportionately high attrition rate? Or is it pretty stable across?
It's year to year.
Okay.
Some years we've had higher English teacher attrition. Some years we've had higher math teachers. It seems, people are always saying, another math teacher, because it's just that highlight. But no, according to this, we lose them at about the same, but it's just year to year. Sometimes you have more English teachers, some years you have more math teachers. But it all kind of, in this 6-year period, is kind of the same. They're all about the same. And then here are the historical reasons for attrition. And the top 6, and the high school is really about relocation. You can see that. Relocation, leaving to work in another school district, being non-renewed, making a career change. So we've had lots of high school teachers make a career change, retirement, and then family or health reasons. And collectively, those make up 77% of the attrition. So, high percentage. But we see a lot of relocation at the high school.
And career change is a lot. the high school?
Yes. Well, I can tell you, you know, when you have CTE teachers at the high school, they have opportunities to move on to industry.
Right.
We also have the U of A who likes to draw our teachers
Yeah.
from us to go work. Megan Kurtz is an example who was a social studies teacher and is now working down at the U of A for us. So they have, the high school, I think, has a better opportunity of their teachers to.
And you're also looking at more teachers with potentially content degrees. So they could have undergraduates in, say, English or math, which would then lead them to
Yes.
potentially different careers quicker.
And, you know, industry likes to hire teachers. They're hard workers, you know, they know how to convey messages very well. They know how to teach well. So, I mean, that's just a draw, which is unfortunate for us. So these are the results of the 2024 survey that we administered, and it was for the 2023-2024 school year. So we
It was
administered.
like, sorry, spring, last spring.
We did it last spring, but it was for the year 23-24. And we go out, or I went out, and talked about the results of previous surveys with each staff, and then they actually took the survey at that time. So it was a captive audience, they were given the time, so we had a very high return rate. We had 300 teachers who took the survey out of about 337 teachers. So
And
a
these
very
are
high return rate.
anonymous surveys.
Anonymous surveys, correct.
Online, is it online based or is it a paper pencil?
Nope, it's an online, through SurveyMonkey. Yep, and again, it was those four, we really want to know those four things. What attracted you? Why do you accept a position? Why do you stay? And what might impact, or what is a factor that might contribute to you wanting to leave? Okay. So the first three questions just asked, have you participated in previous surveys? So, you know, we've done four now, but you can see between, we had, 300 teachers take it in 2024, but in 2021 we had 184, and that's probably the highest percentage that is the same, because if you look at 2015 to 2018, and 2018 to 2021, so we have more teachers who have been here for those 4 years than we have in the past, so, which is...
Has something about retention.
It does. It does. So then question 4 is just asking them how many years that they've been employed in the district. And you can see that the experience has remained pretty stable. You know, if you look at, I always like to, when I see a graph like this, I try to turn it to see if it's kind of this same bell shape, right? So there's two notable changes on this graph. One, the percentage of teachers in years 6 through 10, which has an increase of 3.59%, so between the 2 years from 2021 to 2022. And then the other notable change was the percentage of teachers in the more than 15-year category decreased by about 2% between 2021 and 2022. So, but you can see we have a nice spread. It's interesting because part of our reputation in Tucson is that we don't hire a lot of brand new first-year teachers. Well, but if you look, that's not, but we're trying to change that. I mean, we're not opposed to hiring first-year teachers, but it has been noted.
So this is first year employed, not,
Yes, employed.
this is first year employed with
Yes,
us?
yes,
But they may have 10 years of experience?
they may.
Okay.
And I would say the average teacher lifespan in the state was like in 2023, it was only 3 years.
Wow.
3 to 5 years was I think the average of a teacher stayed at the job. So the fact that we have the brunt of our workforce above
In the latter
that
years.
says a lot about retention in this district.
Which I know Dr. Cameronville did not mention it for our state funding, but the teacher experience index plays a small part of our school funding as well. So the more experienced staff you have, the more money you get. Okay, so that's another reason for retention. question 5, this is the level, that what school they teach in. Obviously, our elementary is the largest, and followed by the high school, middle school, and of course our early childhood. And then if they work at multiple sites, those are going to be speech pathologists, school psychologists, the occupational therapist, the physical therapist. Those are the itinerant that travel between sites.
We don't have any counselors in that category anymore because
We do
everybody's
not.
got their own.
Well,
Do
we
but
do have
We might
one.
have more than one
Yeah,
counselor,
I-
say, at Esperero, and they share. But for the most part, everybody's got counselors.
Right.
Those numbers used to be different.
Right, and this also, because of this year, it would have included our gifted specialists at the elementary level, but it won't the next time. But it's important to remember that these are the percentages of people who actually took the survey, not
Not your actual number.
the actual numbers in our district, so. So, where were you prior to coming to CFSD? So you can see their first teaching position in 2024, it decreased from the 2021.
What are the two other districts in, the blue and the yellow? Another district in
Tucson,
Tucson
and
and then
another district outside of Tucson.
Okay.
Yes. So you can see that, most of them are either from a district in Tucson or outside. We are a very desirable district. Our teachers coming from out of state, this is one of the first districts that they'll look at. Because if you Google, top school districts in Tucson, it's going to come up with the Catalina Foothills. So we do get a lot of out-of-state applicants as well. So we do hire from other districts outside of Tucson as well.
So 2/3 of our teacher population comes to us with teaching experience.
Yes. But you can see that 14.3% of them are coming from a different career, and that's an increase. And that's going to continue to increase with alternate certificate teachers. I think that's going to be a trend, and the different pathways that have been created to get your teaching certificate, I think it's going to increase.
Would there be a correlation with age, and that as well as people maybe taking on a second career?
We have had a couple of those. We have. So they've finished a career and said, I'm not really done working. I'd like to do teaching. We have a math teacher this year that is doing that. So it's, yes.
What was his or her prior career, just out of curiosity?
I think he worked at Raytheon.
Okay.
And we are finding, because of the alternate certification opportunities, some younger teachers too that were potentially graduates, moved into a career, did that for a few years, and then jumped into education, 2 or 3 years from a different career. I think we're seeing more of that because of the alternate pathways that before.
I suspect that those teachers coming from another district in Tucson is going to continue to increase. So during the pandemic, districts had federal funding through ESSER to retain their employees. So they offered large bonuses, they offered large, just more money to stay. So the attrition rates, I think, in other districts had slowed down quite a bit. Now with the end of that ESSER funding, we feel like this might change again. It might change back in our favor that they're going to start applying to our district again. So.
And being early in the hiring year, we did a job fair recently, and some great candidates. We had
From the U of A.
Yeah, the U of A job fair was.
Was it just last
dynamite.
weekend?
It was last week, yeah.
And we have 50,
Candidates from the U of A education program?
and we
That's
have 50
wonderful.
candidates signed up for our job fair on Saturday, so,
This coming Saturday.
yeah.
Wow.
So, yes, it's,
How does that compare to past years?
it's down a little. I think we had 60 last year, but we still have a few more days to sign up. But that also, when you mentioned that we're starting to get resignations now, early resignations are advantageous to us. If they're going to plan to leave, we would prefer that they do it early so that we can capitalize on the candidates that are available now. So,
Is the number of candidates from U of A unusual?
it is a bit.
It is.
Because I know we had a conversation, I'm trying to remember the specifics of the conversation about some of the barriers to recruiting from the U of A's Education College, as well as, I think, even ASU. And then you look at those first-year teacher numbers that are relatively low, so perhaps, I'm assuming that's not because we are adverse to hiring first-year teachers.
No.
We hadn't been getting the candidates, so
Right.
perhaps that's changing
The,
as
the
well.
candidacy pool across the state for brand new teachers has been very low. So I was, used to seeing the job fairs across the state very, just there were candidates, the students were not coming out. And we had such a great turnout, we ran out of folders because we had so many students coming by and talking to us, which was great.
Great.
At one point, I keep saying this, we had 3 math teachers in line to talk to Mr. Lambert. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody take a picture.
And what's really
Exciting. That's
interesting
great.
is we have graduates coming back
Yes.
and wanting to teach.
That's
awesome.
So that is wonderful.
That's always wonderful, yeah.
So,
I do, this is a comment, I think it would be interesting over time to keep an eye on the different career group and see if their retention is different. See, like, if you come in with teaching experience, you kind of already know the ropes. Very different experience if you're coming from a corporate
Right.
background or an entrepreneurial background. And I'm curious, that probably adds culturally some great stuff to the mix, but I wonder if that group encounters different difficulties adjusting to teaching.
well, we always say it's the most difficult way to become a teacher. It is the most difficult way.
It comes from somewhere
So
else.
our Great Beginnings program does track that.
Oh, nice.
We do track that with our Great Beginnings program. So what is the retention rate of our alternatively certified teachers versus teachers who, went through a traditional program? We do track that. And there is a difference because it is a very difficult way to enter the teaching world because just because you went to school, it's not the same as teaching. So,
And many of them may be also going to school
Yeah.
while they're
yes,
teaching.
and that's
So
difficult.
you're not only learning how to teach, you're going to school in the evenings as well. So it is a very stressful time, and we try to provide a ton of support to those candidates. But it is a difficult track, but there is something to say about teachers that have it in them. They have it in them, and they're going to swim. They might just need a little extra, oh, this is why this is working. But you do, thankfully, that's
We
in
do
them.
also have differentiated professional learning for them as well. So they,
So they have different support available
Yes.
to them.
more
Okay,
often,
Nice.
Yep.
yes. So we really distinguished that so that we could really support them. Because we don't want to, that's going to be our teacher pipeline. So
Yes.
we have to support them so that they are ready to face the challenges of the teacher. So question 7 is, why did you initially apply to the district? And this is, it's not surprising, but, salary has been, there's been an increase in the percentage of people that really apply because of our salary. It highlights the shift in importance of salaries for everybody. It's our economy, correct? But other reasons at the very bottom, those other responses that are 25 or 26% of the population, they're moving to Tucson and they heard about the district. So our reputation. They were alumni of our district, a friend who also taught in the district, so that refer a friend type thing. They were encouraged by a current employee to apply. So we just had an administrative meeting today, and I asked one of our new administrators who came from TUSD, I said, hey, have you talked to your friends about making a move to come to CFSD, right? Yes. Or they recruited through the University of Arizona. So this shows you, obviously the specific position for which they're qualified for is going to be a high reason as well, because that's why you apply to a teaching position, because you're uniquely qualified to teach that subject. But salary has really surpassed, and you'll see in other categories, salary is
Well,
it.
district reputation's still a huge draw.
It's very-
It still beats out compensation.
It does,
But you assume they don't necessarily know the compensation until they
right,
apply.
right.
But, yeah.
We offer referral bonuses? I can't remember.
We don't. No, we don't. So then question 8 was, what helped you decide to accept a position? And this is a little bit different graph, so you can see the color coding at the bottom. Green is their, that first choice. And so that's where you see the salary, the job responsibilities, and the school district reputation. And then it was that first job offer was their first reason for deciding to accept a position at the FSD.
So is this a forced rank question?
Yeah, this was a rank order. And so
Okay.
what was the first deciding factor
Okay.
for you to accept a position? And again, you know, but salary, you can see salary as a second priority too, and a third priority. You can see it's going to be, it's right up there in all 3 categories. It's just an indication that we have to continue to offer competitive compensation for our employees to attract and retain them.
What's under interactions with principals? It's cut off interactions with potential, that would be colleagues?
Colleagues, yes. Mhm. Typically, colleagues are on an interview committee, so if you're hiring for an English teacher, you're going to have English teachers as well as administrators on that committee. So those interactions with those potential colleagues and you know, the smart principals will say, why don't you give that candidate a call? Or we'll say to a candidate, we're going to give you our teacher's number and you can call them if you have any questions. And so those interactions that they have with those potential colleagues has drawn them to the district. What motivates you to stay employed? Here, you know, green is number 1 again. Of course, salary continues to be that number 1. Benefits has taken on a new, you know, we've always marveled that benefits was never a concern for our employees. They never seem to understand.
Such a huge perk.
It is such a huge perk.
Almost $6,000 a year.
Yes, it's more than 6,000. Yes, so you can see it's starting to eke in there. They're starting to realize what that means, and that is a benefit to them.
Are we still doing the benefits report individually for, it became a statute a couple of years ago where we had to do a
Total
benefits report,
compensation.
or a compensation report,
Total
yes.
compensation,
Total
yes.
comp report. I knew there was a term for it, but I would imagine that that's probably helpful data for them.
They realize that.
Meaning it's an individual letter that each
It'll
teacher
value
gets.
all of their benefits and show the total compensation package for them with a value, a monetary value.
Which wouldn't include performance pay, I bet.
I think it actually
does
does.
it?
I think it actually does. But you can also see coworkers and collaboration is very high,
It's always been up there.
as well as the principal and admin support. So that is very important to them, for them to stay employed.
Is part of one of the things that jumped out to me on this page is the leadership opportunities, professional development, all being relatively low. But is that also potentially just, I've found my role is teacher, I love that role, I'm not looking to advance, so that's not as high a priority? Is that
Yes.
one way to read that?
Yes. There's also not a lot of leadership opportunities outside the classroom. We have teacher leaders who are leading collaborative inquiry teams, which I think has been, for those teachers who are wanting to seek future leadership opportunities, I think that's a really nice way to start that track. But yes, it's not a high priority for most of the teachers for leadership opportunities.
I always thought the professional development piece was higher.
And I'd say it's more commonly like their 5th or 6th, like, or.
Kind of
for
in
those
the
things.
middle.
Right, and so I don't know that it's not, it just might be salary and some of the other
Right.
things are
Yeah.
more important to them.
I will say professional development is one of the questions that candidates ask most frequently about.
Oh,
So what type of professional learning opportunities are there going to be? What kind of support, mentoring am I going to get? That is a question that our candidates ask frequently. So it is, I think, a higher but like you said, salary's always gonna win out.
Sure. Yeah. Do you feel like there's adequate options and support for the teachers who do want additional development?
Oh, absolutely. We have several tracks. And our director of professional learning, Leah Glasha-Mandel, she puts out opportunities for the summer. She also works with teachers as teacher leaders on the collaborative inquiry teams. So there's many opportunities for professional for them.
Not to mention the curriculum development
Curriculum
committees.
development, correct. Okay, so this is just kind of how satisfied are you? And there was just your salary, your benefits, your school climate. In the 2021 administration, there were 3 areas that had the very satisfied category exceeded that of the somewhat satisfied category. And it was the coworkers and collaboration, the administration, and the school climate. In 2024, the safety measures replaced school climate as one of those where the percentage of respondents in the very satisfied category exceeded that of the somewhat satisfied category.
So that was that a new addition in the 2024 survey?
It was because in the
The safety measures?
No, it wasn't at 2024. I'm sorry, that was at 2023, 2021, because we were just coming off of the pandemic.
Is that what the
That's
last
incorrect.
one says, the
That would be the
mitigation?
mitigation.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Safety measures.
Oh, no, I take that back. It was the safety measures that we've put in place around the school.
Yeah, exactly, for 2024, yeah,
Yes, for
exactly.
2024.
Exactly.
So
What
that,
I mean is that was new for 2024.
it
That
was,
a new
it was the new
category for
category,
2024.
yes.
Yeah.
The other 2, collaboration and their administration at the school, that remained the same. But they were appreciative of the safety measures that we've implemented at the sites. Which is very nice. And then our very satisfied rates they've actually decreased between the 2 administrations. And then the percentages of respondents who were very dissatisfied ranged between less than 1% and 5%. But there were 18% of the respondents who were either somewhat or very dissatisfied with their salary and or with their school climate. So that is an issue that we'll be looking at.
What does school climate mean, do you think, when people are filling out this survey?
Well, we do a school climate survey, and we'll be doing a school climate survey this year. And that, what we tend to think of school climate is the characteristics of the school that make your school unique and that you feel proud of to be part of that school, right? It's what makes your school your school. Our school climate, we're known for, meeting students' individual needs. That's their school climate. I think sometimes people confuse it with their motivation, their morale. You hear climate and morale a lot.
Yeah.
We try to distinguish the 2. It's because it's not about morale. It's really about the climate of the school and serving students at the school and how teachers work together and how they work with their administrators, that general collegiality versus morale.
Is it defined in the survey? Or-
In the climate survey,
No,
No,
in
in
this
this survey.
survey, is the
Define
term
climate.
defined? So that-
no, I don't think so.
So that whoever, the survey taker
Right,
is defining that for
correct,
him or herself.
correct. And this is how satisfied are you with your teaching experience? Very satisfied, you can see, has remained very high or somewhat satisfied. Moderately satisfied, it was never really an option, but we can't get it off of that survey for some reason. So we can't ever get it off there, so it's just up there. That's not a choice, really. So it's really very satisfied, somewhat, or somewhat dissatisfied, or very dissatisfied. But you can see a pretty low percentage of very dissatisfied individuals, somewhat dissatisfied, decrease between the 21 and 24 administrations, The very satisfied has remained pretty constant, as have, but the somewhat satisfied has also increased between the two administrations. So we have very satisfied teachers. Question 12, we have if you were offered a contract. So this is kind of this, well, if you were offered a contract, how likely are you going to sign it? Again, although we don't use this as a predictor, we just ask it so that we can get kind of an idea. You can see between the two administrations of the survey, we increase that very likely by 10%, which is pretty significant. And then our somewhat likely decreased because I think they went into the very likely.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and then our very unlikely increased just a slight, but our undecided reduced. So it was a nice,
What time of year is this given?
in April.
So it could be that some of them already knew they were
Sure,
very unlikely because they weren't.
yeah, because they weren't going to, or they didn't.
Also, April of '21,
Yes,
pretty tough.
yes.
I mean, you've got to really wonder if all these questions are skewed by a very unusual school year.
Our
Yes,
trends are going in the right direction.
Right, for sure, absolutely. I'm just saying,
And they're
Hard.
consistent.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
the
look
data's
at
consistent.
these numbers and you say, well, if you took our overall retention rate that you showed us on slide 2, factor out the people who are relocating, you end up with about this number.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. The data's tying off.
yes.
Correct.
if you say so.
And this is where we're asking about their immediate goals, because part of a teacher's satisfaction is that they're doing the work that they want to be doing. So what are their goals? What other type of, what other type of work do they want to be doing? Overwhelmingly, continuity in the same position at the same school
It's always been
has always been.
the top choice.
And, I mean, that's a 1 to 2 year goal. And so for most teachers, that's what they want to be doing. There are a few that want leadership opportunities, but the other opportunities included that they were going to retire, they were leaving the profession, they were going to stay home with children, and they're open to opportunities to teach at just one school. So some teachers who were itinerant, they wanted to teach at just one school. So
Since the legend was truncated, can you read out what those categories are, please?
Yeah. So continuity in the same school, in the same position. I would like to consider a different position at my school. Leadership opportunities, administrative opportunities. I'd like to consider the same position at a different school. I'll consider a different position at a different school, and then other.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And the different school may still be in our district.
Yes,
It could just be, I
yes,
don't want to drive all
yes.
the way across.
Exactly. The 7 miles.
Yeah.
Those are long miles at certain times in the morning.
Coming from,
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
right?
And then here are the 3 to 5 year goals. Again, continuity in that same position in the same school is really where most of the teachers, it's less in the 3 to 5 year range. So we have some teachers that might be considering some other opportunities. Leadership opportunities, again, were higher, although it's lower than it was in 2021. So we have, but overwhelmingly, again, they want to stay in that same position. For other reasons, some of the reasons that they gave were they were retiring, they were changing careers, they were raising a family, they were moving, they were pursuing further education, and they wanted to participate in the Retire Rehire program. So,
The difference between question 13 and 14, last slide and this slide, I think really speaks to there is a bit of a mindset of, like, right now, 1 to 2 years, I like where I am,
Yes.
but I do want to know that those opportunities are out there.
and I might consider something different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
One that surprises me is leadership opportunities, because a few slides earlier, arguably, there was an expression that wasn't actually on people's radar.
Not
Right,
as a
it
reason,
wasn't a-
yeah.
Yeah, and then here we're seeing that this is something that they're saying is a goal of theirs. Yeah.
It's,
And I think
again,
that's why it was like fifth or sixth choice.
yeah,
But
Exactly.
it's longer term.
It's longer term.
Because they're answering the earlier question based on immediate right now, and
Right.
then the longer out you go. Yeah.
I think if we go back to, it's question 9, which was what motivates you to stay employed with CFSD, right? And there we saw it was 10% said it was in their top 4 reasons to stay, plus or minus 10%.
right.
Right, that it was in their top 4 reasons to stay, which is lower, I think, than what we might expect. And then here we're seeing, whatever question we were on, question 14, that 12% are saying it's actually one of their midterm goals, right? In 3 to 5 years, that it is one of their goals. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there, I would say, but it's just interesting, that's all.
I think the things that you named as leadership opportunities, like being, curriculum committees or teacher mentors or CTI. Those, are they seen? I don't want to say marketed. I mean, are they promoted to teachers as leadership opportunities? I mean, I'm wondering if there's like a disconnect between
What they view
what,
as
what's
leadership.
what it's called. Yeah.
What they view as leadership opportunities and what we view as opportunities. I don't know about that. We do call them we call them teacher leaders.
Yeah.
So we have teacher leaders at our induction with our brand new teachers. We have teacher leaders there. We have collaborative inquiry teacher leaders. So we call them leadership. But sometimes people think of leadership as, a principal or a superintendent or something like that. So I don't know what their thought process was, right? We don't know what they consider a leadership opportunity.
But if you jump back to, not on here necessarily, but if you look at question 10, where we're asking satisfaction with these different things, you've got less than 10% saying they're dissatisfied with the leadership opportunity available to them. So importance or relevance is growing over time, but the satisfaction seems to be pretty consistent, that people feel like it's there for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's reassuring.
Yes.
Yes.
And then this is a question that we always really look at closely. How likely are you to look for a position outside of CFSD next year? So you can see the not likely at all is overwhelmingly the highest response rate. And then somewhat unlikely is the next one. There's somewhat likely has decreased between the two administrations of the survey. And then very likely increased a bit in 2024. Interestingly enough, we had our highest retention rate after this survey. Which is
Never
just,
hurts to look.
which is
I
why it's not a
guess.
predictive survey, which is why we can't
Exactly.
use it to predict.
Right.
It's just not effective at predicting because it's
a snapshot
moment
in time.
It's
It's a snapshot in time.
Well, and also when you connect the data points, if salary is the driving factor, which it is, it's what we've
Right.
seen here. Yeah, they're going to look and see if they can do the same thing for a better salary. We know that we benchmark really well in salary, so then it's like, okay, I looked, I know I'm in a good place then.
Exactly.
So,
And then the number 2 is reputation. So
Right.
it's like, not only is my salary
Exactly.
being met, but I'm in a good district.
exactly. And personally, I tend to look at the data more as like taking somewhat likely, the bottom 2 and adding them together, and we're seeing very consistent percentages there.
Right.
And there's always a little bit of movement between those two, of course, depending on the mood of the day and things
Right.
like that. But looking at those two together, they're 20% in 2021, 20% in 2024. Very consistent
And yet-
results there.
Our retention rate doesn't show that.
Exactly.
So-
But again, this isn't,
Yeah.
it's not about I am going to leave. I think it's more just that natural, I'm going to see what else is out there.
I might
If
look
they
for a
say my
position.
salary is really good. Is it really good? I'm going to go do my own research,
Yes.
for example.
Yes. But, we've done things that make them want to stay, right? Our compensation package, our benefits package, our retention bonus that we gave during 2022. You know, we've done things that really encourage people to stay in with us. Then this is the factors that would influence you to look for a position outside of CFSD, and they had to select 3. So, of course, salary, like you said. I'm going to look around. A career change, so they're going to leave the profession. And fewer job expectations.
We hear that quite often.
Living the dream.
Yes, I'd like
Right.
less work for more money.
Right. What's the one below that say? Lack of school administrators?
Lack of school administrative support.
Ah.
So if they didn't feel supported by their school administrator, that would cause them to look.
What
Which-
would influence them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we saw that earlier, how important that was on the accounting side. How much, I mean, of course, yes, more money, less work.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I have heard anecdotally that the expectations around workload and job are high.
Yes.
And I don't have a really good way to compare that. Like, is that kind of what we're saying? Like, yes, there's higher workload, but it's worth it. Or what's the?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we actually agree that it's a higher workload.
Okay. Well, that's what I don't know. Like, is it basically the same everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teaching is a heavy workload.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Do we have programs that, you know, require some extra time? Probably, yes. Our collaborative inquiry teams, but they're meeting during the school day, so it's not after school. What we hear is the 6-period day.
At the high school.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
Most schools, high school or middle schools, have a 5-period day. We have a 6-period day, so that would be the workload issue.
And is this 2024 results?
This is the 2024.
And I would say, you know, it's, every place has unique work expectations. Some may be different in other places, so being from outside the district prior to this year, I think these are common concerns, just in different areas. You know, it might be the periods of teaching that's rising to the top, but in other places it might be the expectations for collaborative learning teams that isn't included in their workday. So I think it, you know,
Different districts have different expectations.
right.
And we do expect our teachers to continue to learn and grow. So we provide support for that, we provide opportunities, and we provide the incentive to do that as well. So I don't think we're outside of the norm.
So
for
the
workload.
4th one down, what does that one say? What's the legend for that one? Teaching position that.
Oh, that better matches their skill set or their responsibilities.
Okay.
Then, again, this is just a question that we can't predict, but it just gives us an idea. How long do you expect to continue teaching in CFSD? Uncertain, and 6 to 10 years seem to be the highest. And that's a pretty common, I don't know, until I don't like it anymore, until I'm retiring, until something else comes along. So, but the 6 to 10 years is a really nice percentage. 30% of our staff really want to stay another 6 to 10 years, which is really good.
And that 1 to 3 years could just as easily be people who've been teaching for 30 years and are about to
Right.
retire, or people who are in
Right.
year 2 going, I'm done with this.
Yes.
Like, we don't really know.
Correct. Correct. And then this is has the opportunity to participate in the Retire Rehire program positively impacted your decision to extend your teaching career in CFSD. And it's interesting because there is a lack of real knowledge about the program.
Say that,
Yeah.
I'm sure, is a little bit
Yeah, they don't.
concerning.
As they come to the information sessions, then they say, oh my goodness, this is such a great program. It is a win-win for both the district
Yes.
and the teacher. And do you know what the Retire Rehire program is?
Only super high level.
Okay.
I know for people who gone through it. but,
Okay, yeah, it's an opportunity for teachers who, or any school staff, because we do it for classified as well. If they're eligible to retire from the state, a normal retirement. So a normal retirement, there's 3 different ways. You can have 80 points, which is a point for your years of service as well as your age. So you get points for both of those. That's one way. You can, so 30 years, 80 points, or be 62 with 10 years experience. Those are all normal ways to retire from the state retirement
And
system.
reach your maximum benefit.
And reach your benefit, not maximum, just
Oh,
your
just-
benefit.
okay.
You just get a benefit from the state. So you retire from the state, and then we contract with an outside third-party service who because the Arizona State Retirement Center says you have to have 365 days in a break of service before you can come back to work in an Arizona State Retirement contributing employer. So you do a break of service and you go with a third-party vendor, and they hire you, and we hire you from them. So you get your same
Contractor.
salary, your same position, everything. The only
And your retirement.
and your retirement. So you get your
Double
retirement
dipping.
pension plus your salary. The only thing that they have to pay for is their medical benefits.
Just
So-
for that 1 year.
Just for that 1 year, because after
they
1
come back
year,
in.
then we hire them back in.
Prior to this, we were losing teachers to
Gregory School.
any school outside of the school, outside of
Anywhere.
the public school system.
Yep.
Because they could retire and have a
Yes.
salary.
Yes.
This plugged that hole.
Yep.
And
This
this used to
plugged
be
that hole, and it's
kind of
been
a,
great.
this used to be, have a kind of a stigma to it. It used to be called double dipping.
You said that.
Because, you just said that?
I just used that
Apparently it
phrase.
still does.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I know,
But it used to be double dipping kind of with a sneer, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't say it with this.
Because what was happening was the person would retire, taking the retirement benefits, and there was no replenishing of the retirement system. However, the law changed, and now districts contribute an alternate contribution rate for anyone who's retired and hired back. So we are replenishing that retirement system for future generations. So it's not so much of a black mark anymore to
And,
double
you know,
dip.
For years and years and years, professional level teachers work for substandard
Yes.
compensation. I think this ability to take advantage of their retirement and work is just something that they have earned over the years. It's like government employees who take
Right.
lower salaries in exchange for a fairly generous pension. That's the trade-off that you get. And
But the average teacher who goes on this program stays nationally is about 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
We've had a couple
After
teachers,
retirement.
10 years.
isn't that crazy?
We've had a couple of teachers that have stayed an additional 10 years. So that is really advantageous to us,
Very much so.
really advantageous. So these are the themes that we've drawn. So there's, the last question is, tell us anything else you think would be important for us to know. So it's wide open. And these are kind of the themes of the 2021 comments. There were 129 comments out of 310 teachers who took the survey. Of course, workload and expectations are the number one in this year, followed by communication and involvement in decisions. And I think that, because I called these themes together, the communication and involvement in decisions was directly related to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Then we had the administration support, both positive and challenges as the next, and then class size after that. And then salary and benefits challenges were another one too. This is where it started to show where, our salary and our benefits are not what we'd like them to be. And these are the comments from the 2024. We had 178 total comments out of the 300. Again, workload and expectations are the top. Salary and benefit challenges are next. Administrative support, both positive and negative are there, but the positive outweigh the challenges. Discipline showed up on this one as the next one, and then the next three were salary and benefits, communication and involvement in decisions, and then curriculum resources and collaborative inquiry challenges all had the same amount of comments made about them.
Would you be able to elaborate on discipline, what the comments are about in relation to discipline?
I think some of them were about a lack of support from administrators on discipline. Some of them were about a lack of support from parents when they had to address discipline challenges with them. I think there were some comments about just the increased number of disciplinary challenges in the classroom. And we've seen that. We've seen that after the pandemic coming back into the classroom. So I think those are the challenges with discipline, really the administrative support, not feeling supported by parents, and then just the increase in number and kind of severity of discipline issues.
Was it across all grade levels that you got discipline?
Yes, less at the elementary, more at the middle school and high school. It was more difficult for them.
And the class size comments, was that also high school, middle, elementary, do you know?
It was more elementary.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Although the number has gone down by about 7
Yeah.
percentage points.
Yeah.
Not that that means it's less of an issue, I'm just
No, I know.
observing that.
No, right.
Yeah, so, with our 4 goals in mind, what can we glean from this? Well, we know salary is important. We have, that's what draw them to us initially, what keeps them, and it's what is going to retain them forever, not forever, but as long as they want. And additionally, with that 93% of our teachers are satisfied with their teaching in our district. So they said either satisfied or somewhat satisfied with their teaching experience. So that salary and that satisfaction level is very high. But salary was the highest priority, of course. And in years past, it has been collaboration. Remember, collaboration with their peers has been higher than salary, but there's a recognition of our employees that our salaries are lower than those in Phoenix, and they are. And there's a recognition and a frustration that the salaries don't keep up with the inflation.
Yeah.
Which inflation at 8%,
Yeah.
Or 7%, whatever, it has been, we get 2% increase in our funding. So that's just an information that we need to put out there. But salary is that issue, that they would like more, of course. And that recognition, they recognize that we are the highest in Tucson, and they appreciate that. But
Still not enough.
Well, but what I think is striking, though, with that 2% inflationary increase, I remember putting these statistics together for our informational campaign, and over the last 3 to 5 years, I think our increase in salaries has been more like 4 to 5%.
yes, it has.
So even with only receiving 2% of
We've
new
found
money
ways.
each year, we have raised our folks' salaries much higher than that, which still can't figure out how you guys do the magic.
Sometimes it is
But I don't know that
magic.
they realize that. I don't know that they realize
No.
or put those 2 data points together.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No, it has, and that's part of the work that I'm going to be doing, right? Is
Yes.
getting that information out there so that they have that understanding about where the money comes from, like we did at the study session at our last meeting. So then, again, colleagues and collaboration time with colleagues are both very high motivators. It draws them in, it keeps them, and it prevents them from looking elsewhere. When you're teaching with someone that you respect and who has a like mind and that you can even teach with sometimes, that is really motivating for teachers, and we need to promote that. And
Other than being like siloed.
which is
Yeah.
why we have colleagues on our interview teams. It's really important because you want to find a match. That candidate is actually interviewing you as well, so they're trying to determine if this is a group of colleagues that I could work with. And if they don't feel that, they're not going to come to us. So it's really important that colleagues and collaboration time. And then our support from principals. And our principals are very aware of that teachers have a choice to where they want to work. And so if we cultivate a supportive atmosphere in the schools, supporting them with discipline, supporting them with challenges that they're having in the classroom, supporting them professionally through professional learning and opportunities for leadership at their site, cultivating that relationship with each employee, we know that that keeps the overall satisfaction of our teachers high. And so we have worked with our principals in how do we do that? Let's do more of that. You know, we want to do more of certain things and less of some of those other things. So, and then, you know, finally is our district impact. You know, retaining a highly trained and skilled workforce is an ongoing challenge, but it's also a goal. It's a goal and a challenge, and it's that push and pull. This is why we go to the job fairs. It's why we provide the professional learning opportunities that we do. It's why we engage in collaborative learning collaborative inquiry teams. It's why we do it, because we really want the highly trained and skilled workforce. Our focus on professional learning and growth in pedagogy and content has contributed to our very highly trained teachers. And as I said before, retraining teachers is very costly. So once we provide the training, we want to keep them so that we don't have to retrain. Because you've all worked on teams where a member leaves and you bring someone on, and it takes a while for them to come up to speed and how to jive with your team. And that can be an issue. So we really want to keep our teams together if we can. How do we do that? We provide an environment that's productive, collaborative, and fulfilling is essential to maintaining our dedicated teaching staff. So that school climate, which is why we do the climate survey as well. So what about climate needs to improve so that we can keep our teachers in their positions? And then, of course, we can't realize our strategic plan goals without our qualified staff. And so retention has to be a continued focus for us. Retaining the teachers that we really want and are really impacting our students positively is what we want to do. So, any other questions about the retention survey?
Do you share the results with your principals
Yes, we do.
and teachers, or?
When we go back out, so when Mindy goes out to do the climate survey, we'll share climate survey results as well as the retention survey results. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Item 4.2 on our agenda is a report from board members Jacqueline and Tom, who attended the Arizona School Boards Association Board Operations and Leadership Training Seminar, which is BOLTS, on January 24th, 2025. And I believe you went with Denise.
Yes.
And so we'd love to hear about it.
No, please. I mean, the highlight to me was the additional attention on open meeting law, because I actually was initially reluctant around both, so I kind of looked at the agenda and went, what else can they cover? But in the same, 50 minutes, it was so incredibly informative. They had
Who did
an
that
attorney
presentation?
presenting. Do you remember the name
It
of
was
the
an
attorney?
attorney.
From Queen Creek.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And they did a great job of just kind of going through hypotheticals and exploring some of the nuances and, scaring me a little, but I think that's kind of the point. Is that anything can be a meeting. But I thought that was really helpful. I think, there were a couple of other topics that were interesting to me. I thought it was also helpful just to get more face time with some of the ASBA representatives.
Yeah.
We had a couple, we were lucky enough to join us for lunch, and so just some general conversation that was nice. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the personality test type stuff, and there was one of those.
Did they
it
do
was
one
the
of
disc
those?
things.
Yeah.
and
The
so
four square thing?
Disc.
Oh, disc.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I found out that I was cautious or something like that.
We were together.
Yes, we were, so we were all.
Yes, equally
You're
all
everywhere,
things.
everywhere, all
Yes,
at once.
Jacqueline's very indecisive, and Denise and I at least know who we are.
There you go.
Um,
I will be whoever you need me to.
Yes.
But yeah, but I mean, I will say, I think it probably was more informative in a concrete way than the annual meeting was. But the annual meeting was better in terms of meeting more people in different situations, more newly elected board members, things like that.
I wonder if it would be better to do Bolts first, and then
I don't think so, because Bolts almost picked up where
Because
the
that's what they
general left off.
skipped at the annual conference. They skipped all this case studies and the hypotheticals when they did the open meeting laws. So I'm glad that they picked up where you left off. 'Cause that's, to me, those concrete examples are more helpful than a bunch of slides about what the statute says.
So in addition to more information about open meeting laws, and there were several flow charts, which I'm a huge fan. So I can look at, this is not where I want to be. I want to go down there. The afternoon had a little session about the role of the board president.
Yeah.
And scenarios about real life examples of things that have happened at board meetings.
Oh.
And what do you do when these things happen? And I was really interested to hear that some of the people that were there had been board members for a while. Even they had differing opinions about how the board president should handle a particular scenario or point of order or what have you. In fact, some of these scenarios, life examples, was
Scary.
to put it
Sobering.
mild, sobering, I guess is a very good way to put it.
Yes.
And I'm always a fan of real life examples. And
Yes.
I would like to see ASBA actually do role-playing, things like that in the future. So
Oh, yeah.
it's one thing to sit and talk about it and hear the example. When you're sitting here and it's actually happening in front of you, that's a different way of being.
Remember that.
Yes.
Sounds like it was a great session.
Was.
It really was. Very worthwhile.
Great to hear.
Well attended?
Glad I played hooky.
It wasn't terribly large.
Where was it located? Where was it held?
Yeah, Tucson National.
Oh, wow.
It was well attended.
Good. I think,
Thank you, all three of you, for coming.
yes, thank you for spending the time. That's awesome. Item 4.3 is our standing item to enable us to discuss any Arizona legislative or governmental activity that may be affecting our work. Anyone?
Saw that they're once again trying this year to make school board elections partisan.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if that makes it through and comes out again.
I do have a comment here, and this is something not directly related to educational funding, but that I believe has been shared with you all. But I was contacted by CFSD resident and parent Melissa Furrier. She and I had worked together on the FFO for a couple of years. She is the parent of a disabled child who attends one of our district schools, and wrote to express her concern over potential cuts to Altex, the Arizona Long-Term Care System, and the Division of Developmental Disabilities. The cuts have been proposed by legislators in response to a $120 million shortfall in the current budget. And if those happen, they will leave many Arizonans, including children statewide and in our district, at risk of losing critical services and support. If you're a member of Altex or DDD, it's because you have highly complex needs, physical, social, and emotional. And these are the funds that provide therapy, medical intervention, and home and community support. So while this is not technically school funding, it is certainly an area where our district would feel the impact of these cuts as students experience the regression of skills that they have fought so hard to gain. these are all things that are troubling enough on an abstract basis, but when you have someone who you know and who is a district parent who puts a face and a voice to that concern, it really is a reminder of how important and critical this funding is. So I did pass this along to ASBA just to inquire. I'm sure it's on their radar. I don't know how much they're advocating in this case. I haven't heard back yet because they were doing bolts in Flagstaff last week. But if I hear anything back, I'll forward it as well. But I'll also reach back out to Melissa and let her know what I hear from ASBA, just so she knows there are people with a voice who are expressing their concern.
Heard anything more on Prop 123 and possible election? No?
We have not.
I feel like we're close to missing that second deadline and
I
just
think,
punting.
I think we're probably looking at November, if not later.
The ASBA policy updates have been pretty helpful. The legislative updates, not policy.
Yeah.
That's how I've been kind of following it. And it'll be interesting to hear back. My experience with ASBA, when we have the opportunity to vote on the political agenda, it's normally one of the 3 pillars is based on full funding, not cutting funding to services that help students. So I would be surprised if this wasn't somewhere on the radar screen, even if not directly related, but I guess it's the time of year when we're going to hear a lot about funding issues. And it seems like education, like, it's decided last, right? Like, after you peel off all the other stuff, then what's left? So, and it's a good reminder that there are real concerns. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mid-faced.
Absolutely.
Okay then, for our future agenda planning, we have agenda planning. I'm so excited.
Bro?
Are we
Your first one? Yes,
Our
it would
first
be.
Ops for
Yes, indeed.
It's you.
first agenda
Does
planning?
10 o'clock work for
Yeah.
everybody
Yes,
in person?
yes.
Okay.
We will be there. Great. Anything else under this topic? No. All for a great meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? You?
I'll second.
There's been a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Our meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting.
Yes, thank you, everyone. That was so nice to
Next
see
time we
everybody.